Hi everyone, thank you for having me here. I'm gonna answer the question why it is so important to talk about security and defense of telecommunication infrastructure. Dual use is not something new. It's not something inherent to quantum technologies. We know it from medical applications. We know it from stones that can be good for building, but you can throw at someone as a weapon. So it's something we need to be very aware of. And we already had a first quantum revolution, and it brought us transistors, and they were amazing. But then again, they have built discrepancies on a global scale, who had access to that technology first and who didn't, and we still see the impact of that. We also saw what it means when we can manipulate an atom. We've built bombs and we've been nuclear power, and we are still recovering from geopolitical implications of that. So if that's what it done the first revolution, and we haven't seen the impact of the second revolution, which we are in, but luckily there haven't been any yet an attack really that we had to countermeasure. So we're in a perfect moment where we can learn from the past and make sure that the way we are bringing the quantum into the societies is much more thoughtful and responsible than we did in the past. There are tools. There is a list of dual-use items. Actually, European Union recently updated it to include quantum, but it's not enough. Having a list and knowing what's going through the borders is just the beginning. We need the governance, we need the collaborations, because it's the collaborations and thoughtful dependencies that will assure peaceful for everyone, and also access to technologies that are dangerous, but they have the dual use, they also bring good. So we want to spread them equally globally. And why telecommunication is such an important topic? Why that infrastructure? Well, because it's a backbone of our modern society. We do governance through those networks. We say basic things on every day through those networks, but we also exchange most secret corporate and national informations. And it's all great. We don't see it. We don't see under the waters. We don't see it under the ground. We don't see those boxes anymore. We don't pay attention to them. We don't care that the airplanes are connected, and we don't care that there are satellites zooming in a ever more crowded space until they fail. And when they fail, they impact everything. They impact economy, they impact national security, they impact how people perceive their presence. Their fear can be used for manipulation. And the telecom, the way we rely on this infrastructure is just beginning. Think about like a few years ago, we wouldn't be carrying a receiver and the transmitter in our hands. Now we're all the time dependent on devices that are connected in those networks, and that will only enhance, which is amazing. 6G is great. There's gonna be more of everything and for everyone, but that means that those networks are more vulnerable to the attacks because, well, they could target to create chaos. So what do we do on the cryptography part? What was amazing, it was a good math long time ago, never say, and we've been relying on it, and it kept us, so to say, secure when we were communicating. Great encryption, but not anymore. And it's not only due to quantum, it's also classical attacks are being better, and we're being attacked in a very fancy ways. Now you have an AI, and we still haven't even touched the capabilities of AI, and quantum only gonna enhance AI and bring new threats. We have to stop being reliant on an old solution. We need to innovate. Doesn't matter when the quantum computer is coming. But it's coming, right? It's coming faster and faster. What was the roadmaps, 2 years ago? They are not anymore the roadmaps. In the last month, most of the quantum providers said that in the end of 2026, they will have the quantum computers that will provide a quantum advantage to some important problems. And by the end of the 29th, we will have a fault-tolerant quantum computer. If it would be only one provider, we could say like, oh, that's just marketing. But if all of them consistently say they have solutions, then we have updates from error correction. We have breakthroughs in a group in Chicago when they say they will be able to enforce symmetry of qubits. There's going to be roadblocks, obviously, but there's going to be a lot of breakthroughs that will speed up and surprise us, and we'll be like, oh, wow, that would make a difference. And we are not ready. So when I heard 2029, I will be like, whoa, it's exciting, but it's kind of bad. What about our infrastructure? And that's why I want to discuss security and defense. And that's because when we secure infrastructure, we make it resilient, we protect the data, we make sure that that there is integrity for the attacks, we can go through an everyday things without worrying about it. But when it comes to a defense capabilities, well, it goes both ways. Again, you want to defend, but you might also have to use it to attack and check what's going on in the other side. So you will be using the networks to secure your communication, but you might also want to have solutions in your network for having redundancy to as important resources as time and positioning. And you might have to do something to detect capabilities of others using, for example, quantum sensors. So that brings me to the topic of a hybrid war. That is something that it's there. There is just more and more sophisticated tools to carry it on invisibly. And gathering intelligence on the capabilities of other countries. Everyone is doing it. And what it is, it's different things, right? It's a cyber intrusions. Those are disinformation. It can be a physical sabotage and probing and mapping the infrastructure. All of this is to probe the response and vulnerabilities of the networks. So what can quantum do there? Well, the quantum is, as an attacker, right? We all know about the harvest now and decrypt later. Then we wait for a quantum computer to check what's going on. What is there also is the quantum sensors. You can start using them for actually mapping your adversary. And then, of course, you can use quantum timing for good, but you can also use it to create disruptions. And more. You should use as I mentioned earlier, for cybersecurity, you should already now use it for encryption, so protecting, but also you'll be using quantum computers, of course, for hacking. So it's both. And then, of course, there is a war, and it's exactly the same, but enhanced. You don't have to hide anymore what you're doing. You would be targeting the infrastructure. You will be using this information to manipulate people. You will use fear, you will use cyber intrusion, but you will use sabotage to cut off energy and power from hospitals or disturb data access in hospitals. All of those things can be done. And then again, quantum comes, and you can use quantum to secure your links. You can make sure that you have redundancy. You can use it yourself. You can use the quantum for gathering the intelligence, and then you can have clocks and access to timing and positioning, that even when the networks will be attacked, you have other solutions. What about quantum computing? I think it's very important to say that it's, again, a very complex tool. It's not only the attacker, it's also a source of intelligence. And you can use it for anomaly detection in your networks. You can use it for adapting routing. You can do spectrum allocation on the side of security. But you can all go all the way to the defend part, where you would have even a digital twin to simulate the attacks and your responses. You would be able to create a supply chain in the moment of war, but war is not the only. You can have also natural disasters that you have to take care of. And then you can also use quantum computer to show the vulnerabilities even when we're using PQC. Okay, so it can be used for penetrating the adversaries, but also for creating a robust security on your side. Why we will do that? Why we should care? Because we should all be able to be interconnected and yet again secure. And it should be global. We need tools and engagement on the governance side to address it, how to responsibly distribute the knowledge, how to engage, and how to make sure that when we create consortia and collaborations globally, it's not between only 2 or 3 sides or countries, that we include as many as possible so that the balance is responsible. Those are some of the resources that you can check, and that there is plenty of more. And I will be here for the today and tomorrow, and I'll be extremely interested in discussing with everyone and learning from you and exchanging what can we do together to keep on advancing this technology, but also remembering that it is so important to provide security and defense for everyone. Thank you.
We have some time for questions. Are there any questions in the audience, please?
Hi, thanks so much. I wondered what your perspective on what do you think might be the biggest threat, and do you think there's more threat from invisible threats or, infrastructures you were saying about the telecommunication system?
I don't know, I wouldn't grade them, that's hard to say. I think the biggest threat is that if we don't do anything, right? So from all the discussions I have, is we keep waiting for the moment when it is necessary to update our cryptography. Everyone's like, so when is that quantum computer? Do I really have to do anything? Well, yeah, you do, because if the process for your enterprise is 10 years to update it, if you have actually no idea what is your cryptography, and you have plenty of IoT around and you have no idea how vulnerable points those are for your network to access it, then probably you shouldn't wait for a roadmap, as we just heard that it's, next year, right? 2026 is the Christmas is coming, it's getting colder, and then we don't even know what it means quantum advantage. What if that quantum advantage and the problem that can be solved, would be good enough to do harm to the networks? And I think it's just time to be proactive. And that's the highest threat. I think it's at the moment I see is that people got used to waiting. Oh yeah, and it's not yet done. For the 15 years, they've been like, oh, it's not there. And they got used to postponing the problem. But in 15 years, a lot have happened.
Thank you so much.
One, two. Yes. Thank you so much. As I understood, the Trump administration postponed the PQC requirement in just last summer. Do you know what is the reason? As I remember, it was a strategy from the Biden administration to apply PQC as soon as possible, but the Trump administration just said no and postponed this topic. Are you aware of it or something?
Yeah, well, I know it on when it comes from the businesses. We need to understand that despite that these technologies and those regulations are there to simply protect also them, it's a lot of costs. So there will be always a pushback to actually have that regulations in making them liable for the data or the attacks. Right? If that's not your core business to provide cryptography, you have no interest to really invest in it. So you keep on paying attention to it. But I mean, lobbying is a thing. Then they engaged, of course. They want to know if it's really, really necessary. But why would you be so happy to have immediately a law that make you liable in case something happens? You don't really want it. So that would be postponing. And then when it comes to PQC, I think it has also changed again, and there is, in a lot of countries, there is a speed up on that. Way too slow, I think, comparing to the roadmaps of quantum computers, like they make no sense. But I think PQC is recognized as something that should be there, and with the new cyber security requirements, the companies are liable in US and in Europe for data breaches. So as a owner of the whole company, you might be held responsible if you haven't applied to this, but not specifically PQC. No one says you have to do PQC, right? Yet.
Absolutely. The right time to act is now.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Let's thank the speaker
Thank you.
again.